Hi everyone, welcome back to the final day of 2020 Virtual SG Floorball Open. I hope that you guys have had a great experience so far. And once again, if you guys have yet to join our Telegram channel, please do so using this QR code and you guys will get the latest updates from us. Similar to yesterday, we'll be beginning with the first segment of our coaching conference, where David Jensen will be speaking to you about decision making and functional techniques. Subsequently, we will take a short 10-minute break before David continues with the second part of his conference. Remember, if you guys have any questions at all, you can send them to the main chat, or if you are shy, you can send them to a question board. David will be taking the questions at the end of his segment. But before we begin, we would like to show you a video from our partner, Singapore Tourism Board, and an ad from our partner, Unihawk. David will dive in right after. Enjoy!
This is the place I call home.
Our home. This is where we live amongst trees and carve them out of metal. Where impossibilities lead us to endless possibilities. This is where all that you're passionate about, all that drives you, is made possible. This is where passion is made possible.
Without further ado, let's welcome David, who will be speaking about decision making and functional techniques today.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And thank you for showing up again, everyone. This is, I think, the most exciting part and the most actually important part of all of them, or even though the others would not be defined as not important. Today, it's about functional technique as a ground level for you to use to then be better at decision making. So I'll start with talking about what I think is functional technique and what's important to have for you to be able to start working on your decision making. Because I think there's a thing that people do that, you know, this is not the right order at times. You start criticizing people's decision making without giving them a chance to actually get a good functional technique. So it's not really fair in that way. The tough part, of course, is that there's probably a certain age where you have to acquire this functional technique, because once you're 25, it can be a tough thing to acquire the amount of functional technique that is needed to be good at decision making. So my advice to everyone here would totally be to make sure that their players, in this case, since you're coaches, work on their technique even at home, like walking around at home, dribbling the ball, taking every chance they have, because the functional technique is such an important base layer for you to be able to be good at decision making later on. It could be that my first part here is a couple of minutes shorter than we thought from the beginning, and then I'll add to the second part, because in the second part we will be talking about decisions, and you will help me out in being like a court, judging whether the players on screen are making the decisions that they should or not. And I'll present you with a little bit of a system, how I think about decision making. But let's not rush ahead here. The first part, like I said, is about functional technique. And I'm going to show you what parts of functional technique I think is the most important thing to be able to make sure that you're good at decision making. And these two, like I said, I think these two are the most important things that I teach. And this is what I invest a lot of time in. So I'll start by sharing my screen here. And let's go into video mode here. So this is my video about functional technique, and I will talk a lot about 360 degrees floorball. I will try to give you a good presentation of it here in the beginning for you to understand why I talk about it like this. So what is 360 degree floorball? Well, the most important thing here is to understand that the stick and the body, those are two separate things. Especially here in Europe, when you listen to a lot of parents that are coaching floorball that have maybe been hockey players before, as in ice hockey players, they talk a lot about, or they were screaming at their kids that they have to have two hands on the stick. And I don't agree at all. Like, there are situations where you should use two hands on the stick. If you're battling and you need power on your stick, or if you're shooting most of the time, of course, though there are some one-handed shots as well with the backhand. I mean, this stick is light. We're talking about couple of 100 grams in comparison to ice hockey stick or an ice hockey puck. Like, the ball is basically a little bit of plastic, so it doesn't need that kind of strength. So why limit yourself to playing with two hands on the stick? I think that's a very important thing that I think you need to get right from the beginning, because I'm devastated when I hear people screaming about having two hands on their stick all the time. This is a pretty good example of what 360 floorball is to me. I'll just run it through once and then I'll go back and look at it in slow motion. So this is Nicola Bischofberger, and he does a lot of cool things here with the ball. So he's gonna be moving forwards, to the right, to the left, back, and then he'll do a spinorama move. And this captures the essence of 360 degrees floorball for me. It's those small steps. It's not a player just deciding to go 100% and then just going 100%. It's him using small movements to get angles where he wants to go. I think in this case, he's actually waiting for a guy who can pop up here so he can find a pass along the ground to this guy, but it never happens. So he decides to run past the guy. And playing one-handed, like I said, is fine, or I think it should be recommended at times. This is a very interesting example of why it makes sense. So we'll see Christoph Meyer here receiving the ball two-handed at the time. And he does a thing that we will talk more about later that I really like. And that is when you're approaching like the first level of defense here. This would be the two Swedish forwards. I think it's very important to ask them questions, meaning you push towards the middle and you see what they do. So if they want to move in and close the middle, well, then you can set up other players in better positions. For example, we see number 14 down here, who's doing a really, really smart thing. See how he has his stick? He's got his stick one-handed like this. And that opens up for a good angle for him to play on the blade, and he can just move it with him, take it to his forehand, and he's won 3 meters already by just going from backhand to forehand. So that's a really good thing about this. So we see Christoph Meyer. He's still working the ball as if it would be two-handed. He actually is one-handed, but he's got the stick on this side. And we're going to zoom in here. I'm going to look at slow motion when he moves forward. Now, he's turned it into a one-handed stance, and he's got the ball over here. Like, had he been two-handed at the time, he would have had his stick here, and he would have had the ball here, which would have opened up for this Swede to be able to put pressure on him. But because of the fact that the ball is actually here, he has a longer distance to get to the ball. So now Christoph Meyer is getting the attention from both of these guys because of the fact that he's playing one-handed, not two-handed with the ball. And once he approaches the third Swede, well, this is just mathematics. So if one of our guys can be playing 1 against 3 against their guys, well, someone's got to be open somewhere. And in this case, it's Matthias Hofbauer down here who gets the ball and is not very much under pressure. While Christoph is running through, he just turns around, dishes the ball back, and Christoph Meyer's got almost an empty net in front of the net. I'm just going to go back again, and I'm going to let you look at it and realize the advantages of sometimes playing one-handed. There. So that's one way of playing one-handed. But another situation where it's really good to play one-handed is when you're receiving a ball. So we talk about it in terms of always being online. when we talk about this in the Swiss Federation. So being able to receive passes. So look at this situation down here, the 2-on-1 situation that occurs between Tim Brayard and Luca Graf and the Estonian defender here. So I'm not a big fan of flipping balls, like saucer passes like this, if you don't need to. So if you can keep the ball on the ground, that's for sure the best way of doing it. And look at his outstretched blade here. So this is 360 degrees floorball from the receiving part. So we keep on going here, and we look at Luca Graf, who's looking for a pass, and then decides to play it here. So if Tim Brayard would have had his stick the normal way, two-handed like this, the pass from Luca Graf would have been intercepted by the Estonian player. But because of the fact that he has his stick and his blade like this, he's actually able to play this along the ground and hit his blade. So the 360-degree floorball here, playing one-handed, helps out in terms of getting the ball to Tim Brayard. And look at this move. One-handed, two-handed. One-handed, two-handed. Those are huge, huge things that will help out so much for beating this Estonian guy. So that's really good. He beats him to the square, and now he can move in here, which he wouldn't have done otherwise. So huge help there. And here comes another interesting little thing, which actually has with handedness to do. So look at our guy over here, who's a right shot D. I was mentioning this yesterday, and I stole this from ice hockey a little bit, having right shot D on this side and left shot D on this side at times. So when he sees that Brayard is increasing speed behind the net, he will react and join the rush as the fourth guy, because he knows that he can get this to his blade because he's a right shooter. Had he been a left shooter, would have been something else, right? Still doesn't score, but it's a good opportunity. So another advantage with the 360 floorball thing is buying yourself time and space. Because if you can buy yourself time and space when you're playing, you will be in much better shape decision-making wise. Because then, you can make better decisions for obvious reasons, like having more time and having more space. So look at this one, for example. It's Jan Zauk, our star who's playing for Mullsjö in the Swedish Super League, who wins the ball here. And then once he has won the ball, he starts moving backwards with it and moves away from the blades of the opponents. So I'm going to run it through you here in normal speed. Then in the end, he just decides to drop it back to our defenders. But had he not been moving backwards here, he had no chance of retaining this ball. So just a clever little move with the 360 floorball to give himself a little bit of extra time and space. Or buying your teammates time and space, of course. This is a brilliant example. So the ball gets played down into the corner to Nico Scalvinoni. It's a great name, by the way. He's getting put under pressure by this Estonian player here. And this is a pretty tough spot, right? You see he's getting pressure from this guy, and he's standing down here, so he doesn't have much space. He decides now to twist and turn one-handed in this direction and buys himself some time and space. But the next Estonian guy is coming down to try to attack him behind the net. So he runs out of time and space again. So he puts on the brakes and then flips the ball back to a guy. This in a perfect world would have been a non-flip pass, but he flips the ball back to the guy who was exactly where we started. So if we go back a little bit, this is exactly where he was before, when he was getting put under pressure by this guy. And like I said, he moves away, puts on the brake, flips the ball back. And now this guy is in the exact same space, but without any pressure, because the three Estonian guys are over here. So by turning backhand, braking, passing the ball back, he just 4 seconds after having been put under pressure in the corner, gives a teammate a perfect spot for decision making, because he will have time on his hands now. And this is also a huge part of the 360 floorball thing. Forehand and backhand, of course. You don't want to limit yourself to playing only forehand or only backhand. This is a power play setup that we use at times, where we will have it's basically a 2-3 system. It doesn't really look like this, but these two are the guys who are going to be standing back a little bit, and these 3 guys are going to be working up front. So it's kind of a 2-3 system, which puts a lot of pressure on these 2 guys being able to shoot the ball and pass the ball backhand and forehand. So if you look at this now, Matthias Hofbauer will play a backhand pass to Tim Brayad, who'll play a forehand pass, and then we'll come up again and go backhand over. So just have a look at this and we'll break it down later. Pretty neat passing from these guys, showing backhand, forehand, backhand, forehand shot. So that's also a big part of the 360 floorball thing, that you're able to use both sides of your blade, of course. Playing without looking at the ball. So this is going to be huge for several reasons. One, for being able to aim shots, but also by keeping the court up to date. And I'll talk more about what I mean about keeping the court up to date later on. And the better your technique is, the less you have to look at the ball, of course. We did see this goal earlier, but maybe no one thought about the direction of Jan Zaug's head. So look at this.
Possible backswing.
He picks a spot. He picks the corner here. So look at this guy, how he has his head. He's just not looking at the ball at all. So it's pretty obvious that he can actually pick corners if you're able to have this kind of functional technique. So let's go back again and look at it from this angle, where you see there is a hole there, but there aren't too many holes. That's where he can score. And he does that by, of course, having a lot of skill, but also because of the fact that he doesn't limit himself to actually looking at the ball. All right, so let's pretend you have a good 360-degree floorball technique. What are the benefits? Well, you'll have increased vision because you don't have to look at the ball, like I said. And this is where this example of having the court up to date will come into play. And I want to show you this by showing my tactical board here. So in this explanation of court up to date and what it actually means, we have to assume that these players are pretty decent at 360 floorball, because otherwise this doesn't really come into play. But I'm gonna steal some stuff from computer games here. So let's pretend that this is a strategic computer game, and the world is the floorball court, and this is our player who's walking around. And normally in these computer games, you will see maybe this part of the court, so or this part of the world, so to speak. That's where you know what's happening. So if someone would come, an enemy would come, and he would stand here, well, you wouldn't have a clue because this would be out of your range. But as soon as this enemy drops into your sphere, you'll see this player. So that's your range, your visual range, so to speak. And if you leave this area and you walk over here, where you actually were, that will turn gray. So you wouldn't see people in here anymore. You just know how it looked, but you don't know how it looks at the time. But if you walk into a new zone and there's a guy here, you'll see him. And as soon as he drops out of your vision, you won't see him anymore. So I'll speak about this in terms of being white in here and in terms of everything else being gray, because we know how the floorball court looks. We know that there's a goal here and there's a goal here, and the opponents will have 5 players, la, la, la. So the world to us can be white, as in up to date, or gray, as in we've been there before, but we don't know exactly how it looks at the time. So to take a floorball specific example, let's think about this in this way. So the red guys are attacking this net over here, but we only use 2 of the red players at the time, and we only use 1 of the blue players. So this is the blue left winger who's defending here. And this guy is looking in this direction. So he will see him and he will see him, the player down here. They will both be in his visual range, so to speak. So if number 5 down here now, who stands in this pocket between the forward and the defender of the blue team, let's pretend that he only looks at the guy who has the ball. If he does, once he receives the ball, he has no clue of this, which is pretty important if you want to play floorball. So let's just pretend that instead of just looking at him while he's standing here, he actually throws, he actually looks in this direction for a short amount of time. So he might see one of his guys standing in the middle and the defender and the center being something like this. So, which he would have missed had he not looked in this direction. So then when he gets the ball, he can play to him directly in the middle, for an example. Or the other way around, maybe he sees that he's just totally surrounded by a guy. He's got another guy who's very close to him, but he's got another guy down in the corner who's really open. So when he gets the ball, if he can just play it along the boards, he can find him down here. So that would be court up to date to me. So the better you use your vision, your peripheral vision, the easier it's going to be for you to make good decisions. So let's drop back to that and looking at this example here. So what we have here is Manuel Engel, who's heading for the corner. And we've got Roman Mittelholzer, a guy who's running over here. So he's going to run like this. And Engel's going to go down the corner. And if Engel decides to just go pick this ball up, but doesn't use his vision, the only thing he will know about the court is this little area down here. So let's have a look at this. I'll run it in slow-mo. He manages to dish the ball directly up to this Mittelholzer guy. And the key to that is here. So if you look at Engel's head here, you see that he's looking up. So he makes sure that his court, at least here, is up to date. He probably has no clue what's happening here or here or here or here. But that, of course, isn't of the essence for him here. He needs to know that and that only, because that's the important part. Here's Manuel Engel again. So look at his head here. Look at how he runs for this ball on a counterattack. And he is interested in knowing where his teammates are. So he looks once, twice. So there's the other time that he puts up his head to check what's happening on the other side. And he runs in like this. So this is a situation where most floorball parents, at least, maybe some floorball coaches as well, would scream for Manuel Engel to shoot the ball. And I think that if he can, without any bigger risk in terms of difficulty, get the ball over to the left shooter on the other side, that's the favorable option to me. Because of the fact that if he gets this pass through, it's a goal. And this is exactly what he does. He dishes it over to the other guy who has an empty net. If he shoots this, for sure he will score now and then. The goal is coming out. So maybe he will score on, I don't know, let's say 10 out of 100 shots. And if he passes, almost all of the passes that go through will be a goal. But how many passes will go through? Well, it's not a very easy pass. So maybe let's say that 30 out of 100 passes go through. That's 29 goals. So passing it to me with my assumptions here would be 29 goals out of 100 tries, and shooting would be maybe 10 goals or maybe 15 goals. So that's how I think about it. We'll talk about that more later on with the decision-making thing, but it's the court up-to-date thing that gives him the chance to do this. You'll also have an increased passing range if you play 360 floorball well. And what I mean with that is that if you can use your body and your stick as two separate units, you will be able to have a wider passing range in terms of how you can play the ball. So here we're looking at Tim Brayad, who will get the ball. There's a lefty on the right side, and there's a right shooter in the middle here. So he gets the ball here, and he decides to pass this ball like this. So if you look at this from like a body standpoint, this is a really tricky thing to do. His blade his stick is like this, and he needs to pass this using his body in a really weird way. But the way he can use his body here when he's playing this pass, he could play passes to this range because he's so good at adapting his body position and his stick position, which enables for him to play passes like this, where he gets the ball into the middle to a righty in a great position. Here's another example. Like you see the same guy, Tim Brayad again, running down the side here, lefty with a ball like this. And then because of the fact that he can use his body and the stick like that, he's actually open to playing this kind of passes, like towards the stream. Everyone's going this way, his pass is going this way. So just how he uses his body opens up for a different range when passing the ball. Now, let's step into another world. This is going to be 3D floorball, and the way we define this is using flip passes, saucer passes to get the ball to spaces that you couldn't reach earlier. And there's a very important thing here. I don't think this is very efficient in a lot of situations. Like I mentioned it before, I'd prefer my people or my players to seek passes that roll along the on the floor instead of actually flipping the ball. But there are times where it makes sense with 3D floorball, and I'm going to show you one of them here. So in the modern way of playing floorball, here you have this 2-3 setup again, with 2 guys back here and then 3 guys up here. And when this guy has the ball and the penalty kill is going to have to take care of him, and him, they have to make decisions here, especially these 2 guys, because they're up against 3 in a way. So you see, especially this guy, the right D here, you'll see him having to decide whether he wants to go there or there. And if the ball manages to go through to him, he's a right shooter who can shoot it directly. So he hesitates a little bit. And when this hesitation comes, you will see Jan Zauk just flip the ball onto Maurer's backhand, and he will just shoot it from there. So I'll take it in slow-mo. And he hits the ball directly. This, of course, takes a lot of skill from the shooter. But when you see it from here, you see that it's a pretty open way to get to the net. And this is a tough one to play if you want to go along the ground because of this guy's blade here. So you probably need to flip the pass. This is one part where 3D floorball actually makes sense as a functional technique. This is the other one. We've got a guy running down here, and we look at the middle here. You see the stick in the blade of this guy. So it's impossible for him here. Oh, let's paint that in red. It's impossible for him to go along the ground here, though it's possible for him to flip this over the stick of this player. So this is another situation where it makes sense, especially if the guy receiving the passes is almost like a tennis player, like that guy over there, who can hit these balls. So in these situations, I think they also make sense. When the reward is pretty decent for getting the ball there, and you can't get the ball there in any other way, and they won't be intercepting this pass because it's really, really tricky, of course, to pick up this ball in the air here. All right. So this, if you add this to good risk-reward management, then you will for sure be able to score big goals. And when we get back, I will be in the second part. I'll be discussing up to 8 scoring chances with you guys, depending on a little bit how fast it will go, and you will be helping me out in making judgments on whether the guys on court have made correct decisions or not. And I'll also run you through a little bit how to think about risk reward and what's the most important thing and how you should analyze decision making, because saying that a decision is good or not, that's not very hard, because everyone can go, yeah, we need to make good decisions. That wasn't a good decision, la, la, la. But I want you to have stuff to anchor your thoughts on when talking about this kind of stuff. So take a short break here, and there will be some videos shown for you guys. And then afterwards, when we get back, we start looking at real-time situations and how to look at risk reward, and we start discussing actual floorball situations. So thank you for the time, and see you in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, David, for the very insightful first part of his conference. Now we'll be playing our iconic Singapore trivia game as usual, and today is based on Clarke Quay. The giveaway will follow shortly after this video.
To the young people of our generation, a mention of Clarke Quay would bring images of bars, clubs, and a vibrant nightlife to mind. However, Clarke Quay has come a long way from the bustling river port that it was in the past. Clarke Quay is actually where Sir Stamford Raffles disembarked when he first arrived in Singapore. At that time, Warehouses were built by the riverside so that European and Chinese merchants could store their goods in a safe place. This was very conveniently located as merchandise needed to be transported on bumboats across the river. The river still stands to today, and restored warehouses now house various restaurants and nightclubs. There are also moored Chinese junks that have been refurbished into floating pubs and restaurants. There are also river cruises and river taxis on the Singapore River that tourists can embark on to enjoy a scenic ride around the city. We hope that you have enjoyed this segment. See you again soon. Bye!
Hi. Okay, sorry for the technical difficulty there, but right now we'll be having our giveaway before we go to the straight to the source video. So this is the giveaway details as usual. I feel like a broken recorder, but I have to repeat it. So answer the trivia question in the next slide and send one private Zoom message to the trivia bot in this format. Your answer, Instagram name, and Telegram username. And remember that this is not a speed contest. You have 2 minutes to answer, and you can use Google. And at the end of every day, we will pick one lucky winner from each iconic segment, and we will announce the winner on our social media platforms. So moving on. Yeah, this is Trivia Bot. So for the price of 2 t-shirts of your choice from our home brand Zetto, the question today is, you heard from the video that the Singapore River is known to transport goods for merchants in the past. How long is the Singapore River in kilometers? Remember to send your answer in this format to the trivia bot. Okay, your 2 minutes is up. Looking at the responses, I see that some of you guys have gotten it right. It is actually 2.95 km. So a fun fact was that the Singapore River was polluted with a lot of garbage and industrial waste due to the congestion during the 1880s. And in 1977, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, he established the Singapore River Cleanup Project to clean up and beautify the Singapore River and Kallang Basin, which is what we see today. So right now, we'll be moving on to straight to the source, episode 4, and we'll be speaking about the Zone Holographic Airlight Stick. And this is with Keller Brandby, who is the brand manager of Zone. Enjoy! Hi, Keller. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank
Today
you.
we're going through the Airlight series, and
Yep.
I have the new Airlight holographic sticks here, and
Yep.
one is in oval, one has an oval shaft, and one has a circular shaft. So can you just tell us more about this series and why it's so popular with all the players?
Yeah, I think the Airlight, it's been in our collection for around 4 or 5 years, and I think it's just a great value for your money, where we've created a really light shaft and combined that year by year in creating a quite innovative design. You know, we've managed to fade the chrome colors one year, and we've added pastel chrome another year, and now we do holographic, which is quite innovative. It's never been done in the Floorball business before. So I guess the series are both really light, of course. It's great in balance, but it's also, great for a great price. And since our players, they want to pop out a bit, so I guess the Airlight series year by year have been the normal choice for players that want to have something where we combine the design with lightweight products. So I think that's the answer for Airlight, why it's so popular.
I see. Thank you for sharing with us.
Welcome. We can also tell you that for this season, the Airlights have always been 4 different flexes, 4 different blade models, and for this season we've just added oval versions of the shafts, which is real molded, and we felt some demands from the market. We had some requests about creating real oval molded shafts. So this year, 2021, is the first time we do the real oval, which is an important step for us to gain new market shares, especially outside Sweden, like Finland and those countries where oval is that popular. So it's we do oval since we've had a lot of requests for oval, and hopefully it will turn out well, and then next year will contain even more oval shafts.
Okay, thank you. So basically, oval is just a preference thing. So it's which one you prefer?
We've never done the real oval before, correct? So we've done with some like layers beneath the grip band before, but now we've just molded the shaft to find a really, really good oval feeling in your hands, where we molded the carbon to find the right measurement. Yeah.
I see. So this is the first time you guys are carrying the oval shaft, right? In zone.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We hope that you guys have enjoyed the video. Now David will be speaking in the second part of his conference.
Thank you. Saving the best for last in terms of what I have doing for you, at least. These are going to be some very important things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about decision making. So let's think about it in terms of us now understanding the 360 floorball part, and we're working with players who have a functional technique. So that's kind of where we start. I'm going to share my screen here, and you're going to see the way I approach decision making. So I'm going to my keynote here. There. So a very important thing here first is the thought process of decision making. So I need you to start thinking about 100 situations instead of one situation. So normally when we discuss videos or we discuss things that happen on court, we tend to talk too much about the actual situation that's on the court right there, instead of thinking a little bit broader and wider in terms of what's happening. Because in one situation, there can be one extremely skilled guy who pulls off an insane move, or the ball might bounce in a weird way, or someone makes a mistake they wouldn't normally do. So going a little bit more into big picture mode and thinking, well, what if this occurred 100 times in a row? How would it look then? Because then you know that, okay, if this doesn't look good for me when I think about 100 situations, then I probably have to do something about this tactically. Or the other way around, if something looks really good in your brain when you think, well, we could keep on doing this and it would work, well, then you have the confirmation that you're thinking in a good way. So think about 100 situations all the time, not only about the situation we're looking at. Think about it in terms of if it would happen 100 times. And then if you can somehow in your head project the success ratio over these 100 situations, that's where you can find the difficulty of what a player is actually trying to do. So if you think that a player can only pull off this move 10 out of 100 situations, then you know it's a really difficult move. And if you think, well, he could get this pass through 90 out of 100 situations, then you know it's a real reliable data that you got. And I try to think like that. And then for reward and risk, I basically have one thing that I look at for each of them. So it's pretty simple. So reward, I think about the probability of a goal if the action we're analyzing actually succeeds. So if a pass goes through, if a dribbling succeeds, how high is the probability of a goal? So then I know what reward is in there. And I like chasing reward instead of trying to get away from risk. That's how I teach to my players, to keep a positive approach. So we look for reward instead of trying to stay away from risk. So with a good reward, I can live with a risk. Of course, I can't live with risk if there's no reward, though. And on the risk side of it, it's the balance of the team and the opponent's counter readiness that is the most important risk to me. So if my team is unbalanced and the opponent looks really set to counter if we do not pull off a pass or a dribbling move or whatever, Well, that's a big warning signal for me. So what is a good decision then? So I look at the reward risk balance and I look at the projected success ratio over 100 situations. And then I try to make my call whether I think it was a good decision or not. And that is exactly what we're going to do together now. So I'm going to show you some clips here. I'm going to start by analyzing the first one myself. And after that, I want you guys to help out in the chat by telling me if you think that this is a decision that will look good over 100 situations. But we'll get to that, and I'll ask you more directly about that when we get to that point. So what is a good decision? There's one more thing that I think is really important, and that is the approach that I try to teach my players when they get the ball. So I always tell them, keep on running until someone stops you. Like, move towards the net and see if someone stops you. If no one stops you, just keep on running with the ball until someone comes up, and then decide whether you want to shoot the ball or if you want to play the ball to someone else. Because there's so much alibi movement in floorball. People running in, dropping the ball back, running in, and never really caring about getting to the net. So this is a huge, cool example, which is actually a real true story. So this is Christoph Meyer. And we've been talking before this game about this, that when you get the ball, your first thought should be, can I just move in and see if I can score a goal? So this is what he does. It just runs in, tackles a guy, shoots a bad shot, and somehow manages to score. Like a typical floorball player would run in like this. Look at that 360 floorball, by the way, one-handed, covering the ball from this guy. But the typical floorball player here would just drop the ball out to him and then keep on running without the ball. But the Czechs, for some reason, do not move together in the middle to stop him here. And for that reason, he just keeps on running. And he comes out to the bench and said, oh, it wasn't that hard, coach. I just did what you said. And of course, this is not going to happen every time. Like the next time, we know that the Czechs are going to tighten it up here, which of course is going to leave someone else with a better position somewhere else. So that's kind of it's a very important thing also from a decision-making standpoint, and something that I think that players should be aware of all the time. Now, I'm going to run through a little bit about risk reward here with you. And the first situation I'm going to analyze on my own. And then from the second one, you guys can help out, and we can be the floorball decision court that judges whether people are doing right or wrong. So this is the first one. It's our first goal that we scored in a world championship. We got Luca Graf, who's doing this that I talked about earlier. He just moves towards the middle and sees if someone stops him. So he runs until he gets over here. And you could argue here that he's doing this thing where he's playing 1-on-3, which is a really good thing for us. And then he gets the ball to Tim Brayad here, who's in a better position. So this is something that's very important to me. Push the middle of the court until you can give someone a better position. So he gives Tim Brayad a better position out on the side here. And Tim Brayad moves up, and he breaks in the pocket here. He's waiting for a righty to come, but he's coming a little bit too slow. He has the chance here to go and use this 2-on-1 situation here, but he probably needs to play this ball between the legs of this guy, or maybe between his stick and his leg or something like that. And he decides here that the risk reward part of it is not there for him. He probably thinks that there's a bigger disadvantage with this pass than an advantage. So he breaks, turns back, plays the ball back to another guy who has his entire court up to date. And he sees the passing lane to this guy. So he will find a way for a pass along the ground, all the way down to Remo Buchli, is his great name, who's down there. And now this is where it gets interesting. So we see where he receives the ball here. There's almost no chance for him to shoot it directly. Maybe he could, but we're looking frame by frame here. The goalie's there and covers up the first post. So there's almost no chance for him of scoring on his own. So he decides to pass this ball to this guy. And this is where it starts to get really interesting. So let's look at the reward first, like I said. The probability of a goal if this action succeeds. So if he gets this ball to Luca Graf in the middle, the probability of a goal is pretty high. It's not very high, though. Had it been very high, well, for that, Luca probably needs to be a right shooter, because if there's a right shooter, it would be easier for him to one-time the ball. And this player is actually there with his stick, so there's a decent chance that he might intercept this pass. So, but if it goes through, it's still a pretty high probability that he will score, though I think it would have been better if he would have been a righty. Then the risk part of it, how is the balance of our team and the counterattack possibilities for the other team? Well, the balance of our team is great. So we have him, and him all ready to back check if this wouldn't turn out well. And the Estonians actually only have 3 guys in better position than ours. So we'll probably turn into a 3-on-3 or a 3-on-4 for them or something like that, which is something we totally could live with. So I like the odds of this. It would have been even better had he been a right shooter. Had he been a right shooter, the guy in the middle there, but it still makes sense to me. I'll run this one through again from the beginning, and we'll see if it actually ends up with a goal. Breaks, goes back, finds the guy, places it into the middle, and he scores. So great first goal. See it from this angle makes it even more interesting. All right, so that was the first one. Now I'm going to need help from you guys, because I'm going to take you through it all the way to the final decision, and then we're going to help out. You're going to help me out in deciding whether it was a good one or not. So this is a set play that we use at times against certain defenses. And in this game, this is an 8-0 game against the Germans in the World Championships. I actually made a competition between all of our lines who would score with this set play the first, and they would get points in a big competition that we have. So they all got 1 try each, and they supposed to try this one out. So what's happening here is that the defender who plays the ball is going to run through the defense and get the ball back, and the other D is going to circle in to help him out. And the ball comes over to this guy. So he's got the ball now, and he's now supposed to play this ball into the middle. We're going to look at how it actually goes before we make our decision whether it was a good decision or not. I'm going to run it through here. He actually gets the ball, and he actually scores. And now I want to know from you, looking at the reward part of it, how big is the probability of a goal if the action actually succeeds? That's something that's important for your decision. How's the risk? How is our balance against their balance? Though we need to know that this guy is moving forward and this guy is moving forward. And how's the projected success ratio over 100 tries? If he plays this past 100 tries, how many of these will actually go through? So I need you to think about all of this and then make your decision in the chat. Is this actually a good decision, or is it not a good decision from Don Hartmann, who plays the ball? Please take 30 seconds and then answer in the chat. Yes for a good decision, no for a bad decision. So we got good decision, good decision, good decision. It's risky from Steve. Good decision from Amelia. Joel says it's a good decision. Sarah sends it to me directly and says no. I'll give you another 20 seconds until I switch back to the screen. All right, so overwhelmingly good decision. I'll go back to, we got a good one there in the end. Sorry. Good because reward is high. It says 3 Swedish players would be lost if it goes through and you have 1 defender. Reward is quite low even because the guy receiving the pass still has to play the beat. All right, so I like the way you approach this. I actually think that even though I want to be the guy who says that we should look for reward, etc., I would say that against a team that is not a very strong team like the Germans, this is actually a good decision here because the reward is big enough. Like, it's a tough one because he turns to the backhand and needs to get this one through. But if he actually gets it through, it's more or less a goal, because it turns into a 3-on-1 situation where a guy who can shoot it directly here and he has another guy who can shoot it directly here. So I would estimate that he probably only needs to get 30 to 40 out of 100 through here, and it will be a goal for us. And because of the Germans being a pretty weak team, I still think that even though they would get a couple of 3-on-2s on us or something like that, we could live with that. So I think long term it is a good decision, though if we would have played a better team, I'm hesitant on whether this would have been a good decision or not. So good first discussion, guys. Thanks for your chat posts. And I'll go to situation 3, which is, of course, the second one we're discussing. So the ball, it's against the Germans again. The ball gets played down the corner here. And interesting thing here is, so looking at the guy who receives the ball, he has his head down. So in terms of court up to date, this is the only thing he knows at the time. He has no clue how the other parts of the court looks at the moment. Though all Germans here are back checking and all of our guys are moving forward. So everyone is moving along the same stream. But let's run through this slowly and see what happens. So the Germans are going to back check quicker than our guys. So some of our guys turn like this instead, which is a really, really a clever move here, because it will separate them from the Germans a little bit. And now he's got his head up. So now he sees these guys. So once he is about to hit this pass, like right here, he has 2 really decent options of what to do. And the margin of error is not very is big, right? Because there's no Germans close to him. So there's literally no risk here. We can't even talk about risk. And the reward, the reward is going to be good. Like if you prefer this shot from the high slot, or if you prefer this shot from the far side, that's another discussion. Do you think that the goalie has more trouble taking this one because it's from the slot, or taking this one because it's the far one? That's maybe the most interesting discussion here. So instead of us saying whether it's a good or a bad decision, because we've already cemented that it's a good decision, I'd like to know from you, is the slot guy the best option, or is the far guy the best option? Let's go for slot or far, or middle and far, and give me your votes in the chat. What do you think is the best option for him to go to here from a reward standpoint? Three nothing for far so far. 4-0 for far. 4-1, slot guy gets a vote. 4-2. 5-2 for far. 5-3. 6-3 far. 7-3 far. 7-4 for far. All right, that's enough, guys. Perfect. So there's a 7-4 vote for far. I got one interesting suggestion saying that you could play to the first guy who could take a step and then get it to the other guy, which is definitely a cool thing to do, but it would definitely increase the difficulty of this and projected success over 100 tries, because that would be great, because the goalie would have to react to him and then he could dish it to the other guy who shoots. You see this a lot in floorball, but it would require him handling the ball. It would require him trying to pass this guy and then find him, and then he needs to shoot it. So the difficulty will go up and the projected success over 100 tries will be tougher, but the probability of a goal might probably increase if he gets it through, because this is going to be an even better shot. So far got the most votes, and far it is. It's a pretty bad shot though, and the goalie maybe should have had it, but yeah, I can't say that someone of you is wrong there, but I would say that the longer movement for the goalie is the harder one. So now it's going to be really tricky. Now I think we will have a divided crowd here, whether it's a good decision or not. So we see Nikola Bischofberger, left shooter, moving in like this, and he will get the ball over to Tim Brayad in the pocket over here. And once the ball gets there, he will now go for a diagonal pass. And this one I won't reveal whether it makes it through, whether he scores a goal or whatever. Clear is that we're looking at the reward and the risk stuff. So the reward, which is the probability of a goal if this pass actually makes it through? Well, I would say if it makes its way through here, it should be a goal. Like the goalie might be there, but on this level, I'd expect this one to be a goal. So maybe, I don't know, let's say that if the pass goes through, he has to score on at least 70% of those. Something like that would be my projection. The risk, though, is the balance. Looking at our balance is actually really bad here. We have a fifth guy that we don't see, who's back here. Other than that, we have a guy in the pocket, a guy close to the net, and a guy just wandering off to the left, meaning that the Swedes actually have inside position on all of our guys. And if we look at the margin, the difficulty of this pass, look at the margin of error here. So this is the margin of error for him. He needs to hit it between these two reds, and it might not be a guaranteed pass that goes through, because we have this Swede, for example, who has a stick like this, who could win this ball. So if he tries this 100 times, before I'm going to show you whether this one works or not, is it a good decision or not? This is going to interest me a lot what you think about this one. And I'm never going to go into a mode where I defend my team or something like that. I'm just going to look at the results or look at the situation and then go for what I think. So good decision, yes or no? We have 1-0 for no, too high risk. No, well, 2-0 for no, 3-0 for no. And don't let my chatter about the the actual numbers of yeses and nos affect you, because that doesn't mean that I think it's a bad decision. Yeah, good reward makes up for the risk, says Robert. Sarah goes yes as well. So now we're up to 3-3. Benjamin says yes. 4-3. Yes is moving in quickly here. Okay, Joel says yes. It's 5-3 to yes. By the way, Robert, I'll get back to your question before talking about this decision making here. All right, another yes from Kenny. Good, that's enough. I just want to address a question here before I keep on moving. I got the question from Robert from the competitions within the lines. Can you elaborate on that? Do you have a lot of kind of internal competition? Do you keep stats with some of the stats system you have from your earlier seminar last day? High, low reward for decisions. So I do not, I'm just going to take this now because otherwise I would forget it. I do not have any stats for decision making so far, actually, with the players, but we do have a lot of internal competition. Like in the World Championship games, we don't have it in the most important games, but we will have it during our entire 2-year campaign leading up to World Championship, which is, some of them are about floorball, some of them can be MasterChef when we're cooking, or some of them can be something totally different. So we like to do that a lot because the guys are so competitive. So we try to do that a lot. All right, so let's get back to this decision. We ended up on a slightly positive note for yes. And I'm actually also in the yes boat for this one, but it's a tough call. It's a really, really tough call. I think the reward is just so high that you need to let your players do this kind of thing. Because even though it would have been a 50-50 situation here, I would have let this player make this decision. Like if we would analyze it afterwards, I'd go, it's a tricky one because the risk is actually high, but I think the reward is so high that we should be going chasing a reward and not trying to stay away from risk. And because of my coaching philosophy, I would grant this one. I would understand if coaches that are a little bit more restrictive than me would say that this doesn't make sense. And the ball, does go through, but he actually doesn't score. So in this one, he doesn't succeed, but this is a ball that should be in. And I think the reward is high enough to warrant the risk. But like I said, it has a lot with my view on decision making to do and not necessarily fact. So I would be fine with no here, but to me personally, it's a yes because of the reward. Next situation. This is a one that is almost the same, and we saw it the other day. I'm going to speed it up here. It's one of our decisive goals against the Swedes when we beat the Swedes for the first time. The ball comes this is where the interesting stuff happens. And this is one of those where I'm going to show you how it looks before we make the decision whether a decision is good or not. So what's happening here is our balance is decent. Like, and we got the fifth guy back here. So we have this guy here, which I think is good because that can eliminate a lot of counterattacks for the others. And the pass that's going to come is going to go from one pocket to the other pocket, and it has to go through one guy, and it has to go semi through at least two guys. So you could make the argument that these two guys could win the ball, and he definitely could win the ball, this guy over here. And the ball is going to go between the stick and the leg of the guy, and it's going to arrive to Matthias Hofbauer's blade, and he's going to take it and then shoot it. And if you look at the fact where he's actually shooting the ball, this is not such a good scoring chance as you'd think. Like, the goal is already there. He has got a chance to score here. He can score here, and he can score here. But it's not a great scoring chance. Like, if he manages to shoot this one directly, though, look at the ball when it comes. If he manages to shoot it there, that's a great scoring chance, obviously. The goal isn't even there. But look at the ball bouncing just a slightly bit. So this is one of those where we have to think about the projected success ratio over 100 times in terms of the difficulty. Like, this pass, playing this pass perfect on the blade is probably what you need to do to be able to score this goal on a high success rate. And of course, you understand that a couple of these balls will get picked off by this guy. So now I want you to bake the cake on your own and decide whether you think that this is a good decision or not. Is it a good decision or not? It turns out into a goal. Please help me out in the chat. Interesting from Serena saying she'd want him to dribble deeper before he passes. Would be an interesting way of seeing it. We have 2 yeses coming in. Yeah, good decision, says Gabriel. Robert says very dangerous to do it against a team like Sweden. 4 against if he misses. And then we've got 3 quick no's. No, if the ball is lost, would be a disadvantage for the Swiss. Defense is tighter this time, small margin of error. All right, I'll let it be there because I think the answers are really good. I'm also in camp no here. I don't think this is a good one. I think you can't really think of it as him using a bouncy pass, though. I think he wants to play this flat. He just, for some reason, doesn't hit the ball perfectly. Like, that's just part of the difficulty here. Like, the ball is not going to be perfectly flat all the time here if he does this 100 times. I don't think he does it on purpose, though, but that's part of the difficulty. So we know that if he plays this pass 100 times, I don't know, the Swedes will catch 30 of them. Maybe 30 will go through in a good way, and 30 will go through in a not very good way or something like that. So when I'm deciding on this one, big picture wise, looking at the risk from the balance and the counterattack and the rewards probability of a goal when the action succeeds, I am also in camp no. And the biggest thing for me here is that I think that even though this ball goes through, it's going to be a tough shot for this guy to get away perfectly. And that's the main reason why I don't like this. And the risk is there, though I like that our guy here will be able to stop a lot of counterattacks. Good. Like you see, there's no real right or wrong here, but it's really good for you guys if you think about how to approach decision making. Let's go for situation 5. This is a very interesting one because this has nothing to do with the scoring chance, actually. This is the Swedes are going down to our end here. So we're in our end here. And there's a check here from Kevin Betty, who then wins the ball. And he starts a counterattack here. And this is the interesting pass for me. So like I told you during my coaching philosophy, first thought forward is really really important to me. So I really need passes to get played early to be able to go into offense transition. So we see here the Swedes have 4 guys invested really high. So if we can get this ball through, we will be in very good shape for counterattacking. I will let you look at this one, the entire one, before we decide, and then we'll go back to this pass.
Now watch out for the counter-attack.
Well, at the Karlström,
all good.
got tackled, and now we have a 2-on-1 situation.
All right, so let's go back. So this pass now, what we see here is that he plays it and he almost hits the foot. He hits the foot, I think, the back foot of Rasmus Enström. So let's just go through this with the stuff that I normally do. Let's look at the reward. What is the probability of a goal if this action succeeds? Like if he gets the ball perfect onto Tim Braillard's blade, how high is the probability of a goal for us? Well, we know then that we will be going with 1, with 2, and the third guy that we don't see over here. And we will be against a stationary guy here, and then another Swedish defender. So we will be on a 3 against 1.5, something like that. That's the reward of it. So the reward is high, but for sure, there are a couple of things that needs to happen before the ball is in the net, because we actually get the ball on our own court. But the reward is still not too bad. What about the risk? Well, the risk is really big here, because if it somehow ends up with Enström and he can actually play it, of course, the ball needs to get to his blade. There's no help for him if he wins the ball and it bounces behind the net, or he wins the ball and it bounces to this side. He needs to win it to his blade. And if he does, he will have 2 options over here against one of our guys. So probably he can't find this guy, but he probably will be able to find this guy. And then we need to think about the projected success ratio over 100 tries, meaning how hard is this pass? Should we expect from a national team player that he could connect with this guy 90 out of 100 times? Or should we expect him to connect with this guy 50 out of 100 times? This is, of course, going to happen in your head. And this is the stuff you need to bake in there. Also, an interesting thing here is that this doesn't run smoothly. The ball bounces. The next pass is also not very good. It actually bounces in the board before he gets it. And then once he plays the pass here, it's a little bit bouncy, but it ends up with an empty net for him. And despite not being very good here or very good here, it still ends up with an empty net. Now, very, very different, very, very difficult decision, but that's why we're here. So I want you to know, is this a good decision or not? And if you have time and you're quick enough with the keyboard, please let me know why in the chat. Let's go. This might be a tricky one. At a 0-0 with a risk-taking coach, yes, this is true from Serena, I think. This probably goes down to a little bit to the coach and the decision-making of the coach, or the way the coach approaches risk-reward. Seems to be a tough one. Gabriel says no, the Swede can intercept and maybe just shoot. Probably could, though the pass would probably be the most dangerous option for him if he wins the ball, but he could shoot, yeah. Awkward to receive for Swedes too. Defense can react. No, high chance for the Swedes to intercept and pass to shoot. Yep, it is, for sure. I'm going to give you another 5 seconds here. All right. No, risk is too high. So a little bit overweight for the no side, which I think makes sense when you look at it this way. I like it from like a coaching philosophy standpoint because I want them to think first, thought forward. But I think this is probably a no, the way he plays it here. Though, there is a big thing that could help out here, which would make this a clear yes on my book. And that would be if Tim Braillard would only move 2 meters this way and show his backhand side of his blade like this, so that Betty could only play a pass along the floor to his backhand here, then it would be a definite yes for me. So like tactically, to go first thought forward, to look for this pass from this guy, I think is 100% correct in the situation. I don't want people hesitating here. I don't want him thinking too much. I want him just going for this one. Though the way it's executed here, it is probably a no, seen over 100 situations. But 2 steps here, and this is a clear yes. 2 steps here, and he gets the ball 95 out of 100 times, and it's a clear yes for us. So, of course, I know this wasn't part of what you were supposed to answer, but that's the way I see this situation. Good. Let's move. I think this will be maybe the final situation here. I'm just going to look at the schedule. Yeah, probably this will be the final one. So we'll run this one through pretty quickly here. This is us in white playing against the Swedes. We're taking the ball deep here. And in the end, this is where the situation is going to come. So we're going to play a pass to a lefty who will score from the middle of the court here. There it comes, and there he scores. So take it in full speed once here. All right, so this is a 6-3 game for the Swedes in the end of the third. So we need to do some chancing here, but let's not think about that. Let's just think about the actual situation and look at the reward. So the reward, if this actually succeeds, is pretty high. I mean, if he gets the ball on his blade here, he probably scores. So the actual reward is really high. But looking at the projected success ratio here to play this one with all of these Swedish sticks all over the place, the projected success ratio over 100 tries probably isn't very high. And looking at the balance of our team isn't great either. But the reward is actually really high. So I want you to know, over 100 situations, is this a good decision or not? Please help me in the chat. Got a yes and a no so far. 50-50. Got another yes. 50-50 from Benjamin. All right, I'll leave it there. And then a no, I saw a no there. Oh, actually came on. Yes, you have so many players crashing the nets, even loose balls you have a good chance on. That's an interesting argument. I'm in camp no here. Though I understand it, if we start thinking about this, like we need goals and it's 13-36, I can maybe buy it a little bit. But if our players think that we long-term can play like this against the Swedes, we will be in big trouble. Like they can counterattack with 3 guys easily, maybe even 4, if they win this ball, and we'll have 1 guy back. So I think over a long term, it's going to be tricky for us. Though I do buy the arguments that if the ball bounces around here, yeah, maybe it could be an interesting situation somehow. Though big picture wise, I would argue that this is a no for me. All right. Thank you very much for that. That was interesting, like good answers from you guys. Hopefully helped you out a little bit how to think. I think it's very important here to get a common language for decision making, so that you and your players can talk about decision making with a common language. It helps out so much. So like we did here, cementing some of these things with risk reward, that's for sure going to help. So let's move on to the Q&A part, right?
Yeah, thank you so much, David, for the very insightful commentary. And I think our viewers have had a lot of fun having an interactive session. Okay, so now on to Q&A. So we just received a public question previously from Serena. She asked,
exactly.
So she said, from a coach's viewpoint at the bench, it is definitely wider than a player playing on court. How during the game would you advise a top player about their decision making?
It's a great question. That totally happens during games. Like I'll be, the way I would advise them would be, I would go to their line, probably talking to the entire line and going, hey, have you seen the situation, blah, 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 where they play like this and you get the ball down there? I believe in the backdoor play there, or I believe in playing to the high slot there for this and that reason. So I see the reward being high enough because they play like that and that, or we do it like this and that. So that would be the kind of language I'd use. I'd go there and I'll go, you saw that, right? And they'll go, yes, probably. And then I'll say, yeah, go for that one. Or if they haven't seen it, then I'll try to draw it up for them and tell them that this is good enough. And we have a way more developed language in talking about this than I presented here. That will be something that I can look at when I come down to Singapore, hopefully. So they know my language too when it comes to this. We have different like types of actions for different reward levels and blah blah blah. So we can speak about this on a pretty high level.
Oh, definitely. The next question that we have in our private message is, how important are role players?
Role players are important. There are some roles that I think are overestimated, though. Like some people will call for like what we would call in at least in Swedish when I directly translate, like the industry defenders, like the defenders that will only clear up in front of the net and block shots and fight hard and stuff like that. I believe that that's a little bit of an overestimated position. Like I think you can teach, almost everyone can work hard. Like you can get your players with good hands to work hard and fight and block shots and do all of that if you're a good teacher, if you're a good motivator. So I think that's probably not as important as people think. But in terms of role players, in terms of you need a sniper and a playmaker and like a playmaker who has the ball when you're trying to enter the opponent's zone and stuff like that, I'm all in for that. I mean, I'd say that's of course how you build your lines. Like you don't want to have 3 snipers in one line and stuff like that. So I believe in role players. I just don't believe in the more destructive ones, because I think that it's pretty easy to get everyone to play gritty if you are a good motivator.
For our next question, this is not so related, but do you usually put one offensive and one defensive defender together in a line, or do you do something else?
That's a good question, and that ties a little bit into this thing about the destructive players. I don't think you can afford having one offensive and one defensive. Maybe we think so a little bit, but we try to pick players that are all good offensively. Then they might have different preferences. So some of them might join the rush a little bit more than the other or something like that. But I stay away from these defensive defensemen because I think that ruins a line. You need all 5 players. So for us, I think, or this far, I've never picked a guy who I don't think have good hands. So yeah, within the offensive world, they might be more or less offensive, but I would never have a defensive defenseman.
Next question we have. Given that everyone has different levels of risk adversity, what if your players have a different idea of risk reward trade-off as you?
That's a great question. It's a great question. Yep, that is a problem because if they don't, that is where I'm the head coach somehow, because it's, of course, I can alter my view as well. If they have good points, I will of course be open to listening to them, and if they bring up points that I agree on, I might change my way of handling that if they can present good thoughts. But I think most of the time it's probably going to end up with a player having to adjust to our system or our thoughts about this, because otherwise this player will probably over a longer time not look very good in our eyes as a staff. And that's of course the luxury of being a national team coach, that you can pick other players in that case. That's a really good question. Yeah, both sides need to be able to alter their views if the other side is really good at bringing their points up.
Yep, definitely. I think you guys have to come to a compromise.
Yeah, could be.
So for our next question is, it seems in your high-risk thinking, the direct shot is becoming very important. Do you agree with that, and do you focus a lot of training on that?
I totally agree. We don't practice technical stuff very much. Like when we practice, it's all about team tactics and almost only 5-on-5. Maybe we'll have the odd skills training now and then because of the fact that, or the special teams training if we can't go 100% because we have a game the other day or something like that. But as soon as we have the luxury of not having a game the day after, we will go hard on team tactics and playing internal games and scrimmages and stuff like that. Though I do agree about the direct shot. I think actually it's underestimated a little bit, the importance of shooting the ball direct. Even though you don't hit the ball perfectly, the direct shot might still be way better than actually controlling the ball and then shooting it from standing still, for an example. So from the ball not moving. So I think you should prefer a decent one-timer instead of controlling the ball and then shooting a very good like sweep shot or a drag shot or something like that. So yeah, I agree on the point. I think the one-timer is going to be is huge for floorball.
Thank you. Next question is, how do players improve or train their peripheral vision on court?
Great question. We have the guy who's responsible for our athletic training within our association is really huge on this. So he's talking a lot about this, what you see and how you can practice that and stuff like that. And I know I had to retake my driver's license when I moved back from Switzerland to Sweden, and then I got to test my peripheral vision while sitting in a machine that was blinking to the left and right. And I started thinking about this immediately at the time. Well, there are ways of doing it, like physically with a body, which I can't go into detail because I'm not good enough at it. But there are ways to improve this, like physically, and of course on the court, there are a lot of drills you can do where players have to make sure that their court is up to date before they achieve the ball. So having someone run up to meet the ball and get a pass in the middle, and forcing them to look at the situation behind them before they get the ball. So maybe in some drills, a player will follow them up in their back, and sometimes he won't. So they had to like check behind their back to know what decisions are good to make after they've caught the ball, for example. So dynamic drills where players have to use their peripheral vision to be good at decision making is something that you can use for that.
Thank you. And we have received a few more questions in the main chat. So for the first one, how do you make players think about the situation 6 that in the long term, this is not always what you want them to be?
Let me just quickly go and see which one was situation 6. Was that the last one here maybe that we had? I'm just scrolling through. Yeah, situation 6. Yeah, good question. So what I do is I explain exactly the way I explained it here. I go like, so he's a lefty in the middle. This is their balance. This is our reward. This is what I think about this situation if we do it 100 times, and it just doesn't compute in my head. Like, that's not the way we want to play. We think that the risk overweighs the reward, even though we want to be reward seeking and not staying away from risk. This is not the way we want to play. So I try to show them this. And I think that's really important. It's actually a really, really important thing to be able to use positive results as negative examples. So this is a positive result. We scored the goal, but it maybe doesn't compute with the message we want to send. And I do that the other way around as well. I can use goals for the opposition where I go, well, this is perfectly played. We can't do it better than this. Keep on doing this, man. And I think that makes people wake up. So that's a big thing.
Thank you. For the next question, in Singapore, sometimes court dimensions change. The dynamic of the game changes as well. With a smaller court, which is more narrow in width, there could be a lack of time to even look up or to be updated. So if you were caught in such a situation, what would you expect of your players for such games?
Yeah, that is a tricky one. I was the Canadian head coach before I came into Switzerland because I thought it was interesting to help out in North American floorball. And we had that problem there all the time. They were always playing on small courts. They'd never played with boards and stuff like this. And then I got them, and 1 week later, we're supposed to play like good European teams in the World Championships. So we had a lot of that going on there as well. I would say this is a little bit of a cliche answer, but it's the only thing that I can find that I think makes sense. Like if it's tough because it's a small court, you got to see it as good practice. Like that's the perfect thing. It's like practicing with a weight belt on, and then you go into the game and you remove the weight belt. I would see it like something like that. This, if it's tight out there, that's a good chance of making it harder on you. And then when you get to a normal court, which you hopefully do a little bit later, then you can use that as an advantage because stuff will be easier on you then.
Definitely. Moving on to the private chat, someone has mentioned that I have troubles running in with one hand, and I'm not 100% confident that I will still have possession of the ball, especially against stronger teams. Do you have any tips to improve moving with the ball one-handed?
Yeah, that I can totally understand this scenario. Of course, it's going to be a tough thing. But my biggest advice would be to practice this during practice sessions where it isn't the end of the world if you lose the ball. Like, go brave when you're with your teammates and when you're around a comfortable environment, and of course also when you're at home, trying to do this. But there's no secrets to this. It's just practice, practice, practice. You've probably heard of the 10,000 hours that people need to go through to be elite in their sport, and it's just one of those cases. It's just hard work.
Okay, one more question in the main chat we have is, what do you think it takes for floorball to become a legitimate global sport?
The first step, and maybe actually one of the most important steps, has been taken now in Europe. Like, now you see a full acceptance from other sports. Like, in the beginning, I know that there were hockey players and handball players, meaning ice hockey players in this case, that thought that floorball wasn't, a real sport in terms of people playing that weren't good enough in other sports, etc., etc. And now, like, looking at our players now, they are athletes. They're machines. They're so fit, they're so well trained, and they need to be that. Otherwise, they won't be good. So that's the first step. Like, there needs to be an acceptance, and the players need to be athletes. Like, you can't just take someone off of the street and put them in a floorball team and he will be good if he has good hands. That isn't the way it's supposed to be. So I think part one is that acceptance and the physical level, just getting it up there so that it's obvious to people that you need to be fit and you need to practice hard to be a good floorball player. I think that's the biggest thing. Other than that, I mean, floorball has so much that other sports don't. Like, for an example, a floorball game can be 10-7 and 3 minutes remaining, and it's still an open affair. Like, the ball is never further away from a goal, further away than 3 seconds away from a goal. Like, regardless of where the ball is on court, it can end up in any net within 3 seconds. There are no blue lines, there are no red lines, no offside. So the sport has so much to offer, and it works so well, like in front of 14, 15,000 in World Championship finals, but it also obviously works great when you're just 6 friends playing mini nets. So I think the sport has so much, but yeah, the acceptance and the seeing ourselves as elite, with all that comes with that, like practicing hard and speaking for floorball in a standing up for floorball. This was going to be a big thing.
Okay, because we're short on time, for our last question, someone has asked, whenever I'm on a breakaway, my coaches always pressure me to take a shot. If you can't score, but most of the time I try to make a back pass to my teammate or to swing it to my friend. So what are your tips, like in an extremely fast-paced counter-attack, especially when I do not have the mental ability to think of the risk-reward situation?
Like, if you're this is interesting because I think there are many coaches who would think that let's talk about the breakaway first. So if you're one against the goalie, I think there will be coaches screaming for the shot because they feel like maybe goalie isn't very oversized, or that if someone shoots, there will be a legitimate chance that the ball will get in because there will be an actual shot. If you start dribbling, maybe you lose the ball, or maybe you run into the goalie or something like that. And I think this is what makes coaches scream about shots in these situations. I see that in the 2-on-1 situation as well. I don't know if you recall, but the second example that I showed with Manuel Engel when he was coming in a 2-on-1 situation against the Latvians, and I talked about whether he would shoot the ball or whether pass the ball to an empty net to his teammate. That's one of those situations where I think that coaches, especially from hockey, ice hockey, they will be screaming for the shot, because in hockey, that would be the thing to do. You'd shoot the puck, and then the rebound would come off of the protection of the goalie, and it will maybe bump out to the other guy who's on the far post. And the rebounds aren't such a thing in floorball, which makes the shot a less attractive option, I think. But to the question, if you don't feel like you have the risk reward in you, I'd still follow your instincts on these ones and try to if you don't have if you have a lot of respect for the coach and the coach can argue why you should shoot, then shoot. But if not, believe in yourself. Do what you think is right. I mean, to me, it's what I hated the most as a player was coming in after practice or a game and feeling I didn't give it a shot. I didn't in terms of I didn't try to do my best out there. I was following different advice that I got from people that I don't really trust or stuff like that. So you need to find your own way. It's a boring answer, but it's the best I can give.
Okay, sorry, one last question from Ogola. What are 2 most basic skills a new floorball player should have?
2 basic skills, good question. Let's go with 2 easy ones that connects to what I talked about here. Like being able to move the ball between a 2-handed grip and a 1-handed grip. So you can go from 2 hands to 1 hand and use your entire reach while you're playing. And then step 2 would be to be able to do that without actually looking at the ball. So trying to work with this, keeping the court up to date, this 360 floorball thing, where you can go 2-handed to 1-handed without actually looking at the ball. If you can do these 2 things, Ogola, you'll be in great shape. It sounds very easy, but like looking at the best players, they're the best players for the reason that they can actually watch the game instead of watching the ball.
Okay, with that, we have come to the end of our coaching conference with David. Thank you so much, David, for being with us. And we are so honored to have you here, and we cannot wait to see you when you come down to Singapore for the next SG Open. Do you have any last words for us?
Oh, I do, yeah. For you guys, I know you've been working so hard with organizing this, and there's a lot to do, and 4 days and everything. Thank you so much. What I've seen, it's been running so smoothly. So thank you for that, and to everyone who's been tuning in and listening. Keep up the floorball stuff. Reach out to me if there's anything I can do for you. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the summer. We have so much more to unpack here. I've only given you a little sneak peek. And like I said before, my first coaching philosophy thing, I'm just a normal guy. So if I can do this, you can do this. So thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you soon. To the organizers, keep on working hard. And thanks for giving me the chance. So yeah, all good. And see ya.
Bye, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, right now, we'll be having our goalie special, which is our only goalie segment of this entire conference. Our 2 Singapore national keepers, Jared Tan and Joshua Loh, will be commenting on Mans. I cannot pronounce his surname, but he'll be introducing himself later in his interview. Mans plays for IBK Dalan as well as the Swedish national team and is definitely one of the top goalies in the world. I hope that you guys enjoy this special segment.
Hi, my name is Jared. And I'm Joshua. And today we'll be analysing the gameplay of the Swedish goalkeeper, Måns Parhoteknier, who plays for Dalan and the Swedish national team. So let's take a look at this first clip.
Vi har ju sett tjafset som var i den andra perioden. Här då, Stenberg, friläge. Parhoteknier i hemmamålet.
Okay, now we'll look at the save in slow motion.
Okay, so the first thing that stands out to me, right, is the use of his hands. So as you can see, his original position, he keeps his left hand down so as to be able to pivot to his right in case he needs to, or to dive to his left. So as the clip continues, you can see that the opponent player fakes to his left first, which Måns uses his hand to move to his right, and then when the player goes back to his left again, he is able to still get back down to save the shot from his left. Yep, so the use of this hand pivoting motion is very important as it gives you the speed to be able to recover fast.
Yeah, so as Josh said, this using of the hand to support the body is very, very important. And I think it is often overlooked by coaches. And I think from Josh and I, our personal experience learning how to goalkeep, I think this is something that we learn on our own rather than like it was not really taught to us. Yeah, but from what we observe from these professional goalkeepers, yeah, and this using of the hand really helps to stabilize the body, especially in close range encounters or one-on-one encounters. So it helps to act as a brake for us. So for example, over here the player moves to the left and then comes back to the right. So for us goalkeepers, when we want to stop our movement and go back in the opposite direction, the hand really helps us to stop moving. Yeah, to act as a brake lah.
Yeah. Then on top of that, if you can see his right hand, right, it's positioned near his head. So by keeping his hand up like that, he's like able to prepare for a shot to the top left corner in case it happens as well. And finally, at the end of the clip, after he saves the shot, you can see how fast he recovers, so that he's able to either dive for the rebound or save a second shot. But thankfully, his defender managed to clear the ball.
Okay, great. So we'll move on to the next clip.
Här lägger man upp den i slottet. Degeryd inte riktigt med på det här. Broby försöker få den där på bortre. Bra räddning från Parker Tegnér.
Okay, now in slow motion. Okay, so from this clip, we can see how Mon sticks out his right leg to save the ball. And what I want to point out is how, from Mon's angle, on his near post side, you can see how his left knee covers the entire near post in terms of grounders. And so his right leg is slightly tilted to the right side to prepare for the far post grounder, because he is sure that for the near post side, the grounder will not get past his left knee.
Okay, so in addition to this, right, if you can see his body position before the shot comes in, right, you can see how far apart his knees are placed. So actually, if you do a goalkeeping angle film, right, whereby you put a camera from different positions around the court and you see where you should be positioning yourself, you realize that from the first pole, if you spread out your knees to a certain extent, depending on how tall or how wide you are, right, you'll be able to cover both bottom corners with your knees. So it actually, like, you're trying to optimize the amount of space that you can cover by yourself. So in this case, right, he's able to cover both corners with his knees. Then when the shot comes in, he realizes that he's going slightly further, so he sticks out his leg and arm to save the shot. Yep. Then after he saves the shot, you can see the quick recovery to try and stop the second shot. And then finally, after that second shot comes in, he recovers again to behind the goal quickly. So like, recovery is very important.
Yeah, and also I think when, like, from our personal experiences, like when we were taught how to save grounder shots, sometimes coaches get us to swivel both our legs to the left and right regardless of where the ball is located. So for example, in Mon's case over here, he has actually no need to swipe his legs to the left side, so he can focus on like swiping it to the right side. Yeah. But then of course, if you are directly from the center, then there's a need to swipe your legs both to the left and right lah. Yeah, but the thing is, if the ball is angled towards more towards one side of the goal, then there is more of a need to focus on swiping the leg to the far post. Because over here, if he swipes the left leg, the leg will actually exceed the goal post, and there's no need for that lah. Yeah. Okay, now we move to the next clip.
Hässmer in i slottet. Skjut då Hässmer. Gör inte det. Nu kommer ett skott i alla fall från Nielsen, så kan Parskjuter ner, kasta in utkastet till Holmgren som sätter kassen i upp.
Okay, so now we look at goalie throws, right? This is like a very underrated aspect of goalkeepers, and a lot of people don't really pay attention to like the techniques of throwing. So if you can see here, after Mons catches the ball, his first instinct is to straight away move out of his box. So like, the further you move out while keeping one foot inside the box, right, allows you to get more distance on your ball as you're throwing it a shorter distance. So if you can see his body position here, right, he sets up his body weight on his back leg first and then tries to transfer it to his front leg using this whipping action with his torso over here. Yeah, so with this whipping action, right, you're able to generate a lot more power. So you have to think of it like an elastic band. So as you pull it back and you release it, right, the further you pull it back, the more power you generate from the throw, sorry. Then on top of that, as you can see here, there are 3 defenders in his pathway, right? So there's actually two throwing lanes that he can find. So the first throwing lane will be between these 2 defenders, and the second throwing lane will be between these 2 defenders. So the furthest player that he can throw to would be Linus over here on the bottom right. So by looking at Linus' body language, he looks like he's going to run into the center. So Mons decides to throw through this passing lane instead of this one so that the ball will meet Linus just nice at the goal post.
Yeah, so as Josh said, it's very important to throw into the lane of where the player is running to. So I think it's very common to sometimes see goalkeepers throwing the ball directly to the player here, but then because the player is running forward, so when the ball reaches here, then the player actually has to backtrack to get the ball. Yeah, so that is not very ideal lah. And also, if we take a look at how Mons throws, you can realize that he uses a lot of the wrist as well. So the wrist is the final part of the throw, which generates a lot of power as well. And so it's important to make sure that we flick our wrist when we throw. Okay, now for this clip we have a penalty by Alexander Root. Okay, so if we look at this clip, right, just like in the first clip, Mons has one hand on the ground, which helps to give him stability and to be able to move in any direction faster, and also to brake, as we said earlier. So regardless of which direction Alexander Root goes to, Mons is still able to maneuver himself. And then one thing also is, if you see Mons' position here, you see where his leg is. It also opens up to the possibility of him using the scissors kick to come out to cut Alexander Root off, which he doesn't use in this situation but it's also a possibility if we use the hand to put on the ground.
Yeah, so in addition to this, right, you can see that at the start he takes a more passive stance to the penalty, but as Root comes closer, right, he becomes more aggressive. As you can see, he starts to come out more. So this aggressive stance would kind of pressure the opponent to maybe release a shot faster or to start his dribble earlier, which would kind of throw off his train of thought, as penalties is a mind game after all. So over here, as he takes a more aggressive stance, right, you can see that he still keeps his body line straight and upright so that he's able to react to any direction the ball goes. So as he keeps himself upright, he's able to follow Root to the right, and then when Root jukes back, he's able to still continue and then dive down to save the shot. Yep.
Hi everyone, today I'm here with Mons and he will be sharing with us more about himself as well as his goalkeeping philosophy. So hi Mons, please introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, my name is Mons Parkö-Tegnér. Goalkeeper in IBK Dalen, playing in the highest Swedish league. Been playing here for, this is my 6th year. And more than representing the club IBK Dalen, I've been representing Swedish national team since 2017.
Nice. So you have actually watched a video done by our 2 national keepers, Josh and Jared. So do you have any thoughts or do you have anything you want to say to them?
I listened to like their analysis from the clips, and I, in most ways, agree with their analysis, which I think is really good and like break it down to details. So it's much more convenient to see it in slow speed and frame by frame when it goes really fast on the pitch, so you can try and think on the small details, which you not always have time to do otherwise.
So we have gathered some questions from them. So the first question is, what was your experience like learning to play as a goalkeeper in your younger days?
It was a little bit mixed. If you go back to how I started playing in Sweden, now it's quite traditional that you, during the summers, you play football, and then in the winters it's floorball, both indoors and like outfield at the school. So when I started regular school in Sweden, I tried both, and floorball really stuck to me. And I always been a goalkeeper in floorball, and I like that. It happens very much. I try to be a goalkeeper in football, but most of the times you're just standing there. So in floorball, you have a huge impact, and even if my team has the ball in the opposite corner, it's always 2 seconds away from a big chance from the opponent. So I think that's like the charm with floorball. It goes very fast, and you have, as a goalkeeper, you can, in many cases, help save the day for your team. So that's why it really stuck on me.
That's nice. Do you have any advice for goalies watching this video?
I think like here in Sweden, I was quite lucky that I had a goalkeeper coach who helped me from quite young age. So 13, 14 years, he worked quite regular with me. But I've always been trying to watch other goalkeepers and see what I think they're doing good and what I can think that is their weaknesses. So then I can try to steal with pride the things they're doing good, and then try to avoid doing the same mistakes. So even if you're watching this, you can always see some things that opponents could have used against me. So I think it's like both watching what did I do that became good, and then like in your own training, you can try to, both when you score or you can see it, you can try to just make a quick notion what could I have done otherwise in this situation. So watching other goalkeepers is a really good way, even if they are younger or maybe better, or even if they're worse than you can still learn quite much by watching them.
I'm sure many of our goalies in Singapore actually learn by watching you play.
Yeah, I hope so.
So what has been your best memory playing floorball?
Oh, it can be quite hard to decide, but World Games in Prague 2018 was, of course, a very big moment for me to be able to. It was my first World Cup since it was the first time I also got to join the tournament. Most of the games I was second keeper, but the other keeper, Johan and I, was a partnership when I played in Falun before moving to IBK Dalen. So I should probably say the semifinals when it's I can't even recall if it's 3-3 or 4-4 after the final whistle, but overtime ends goalless, and then it was told before the tournament that I was going to take all penalties. So when I can come in and do it good enough to qualify for the final, it should be one of the best moments.
That's nice. Do you have any tips for saving penalty shots?
There is quite many things to think about that penalties, but normally in my case I can always most times I can see some penalties from the penalty taker beforehand meeting them, but normally if I haven't seen the penalty taker before, I try to see both if it's a right or left-handed and try to move my body depending on which angle they're having. So if it's like a player with much curl on their stick, they're more likely to shoot a forehand shot, while the less angle they're having, the more ability they normally have to use their backhand. So for example, if they have a really big hook or angle on their stick, and try to come out a bit more, sit to limit their forehand much more. And if it's for example here, when Alexander Rudd is laying a penalty on me, I tried to not focus as much that he's going to go and shoot, because he's really tall and can cover quite much ground with his dribbles, and he's almost better with his backhand. So then I tried to maybe sit much more towards his backhand than I would have done if it's I play with the better shots.
So your advice is to know how these know how these players take penalties beforehand and anticipate their movement. Is that right?
Yeah, precisely. So it's always a little bit judgment. How far do I need to go out? How much? Yeah, what is this player's special ability? Because normally they only have 1, 2, maybe 3 variations of their favorite penalty, and some of them they're going to use.
Okay, thank you. So, I heard this from my goalie friends, but you have an incredible reaction sideways. So I'm assuming it's that when you go on to the ground. So is this due to your training in diving skills or reading of the game and like incredible anticipation? So what would you suggest to viewers?
Let's see. So I can recall, is it like the first or the second clip we're thinking about? Like I have like 2 different styles how I cover the floor, which both is a little bit covered in the analysis in clip 1 and 2. It sometimes depends a little bit how I'm sitting in the goal beforehand. So in one of the cases, I'm trying to cover the ground with my with my arms and my body, and the other ones I go with like the legs first and let my arms come over.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite hard to say which one that is the best, but it depends a little bit on the situation. But I think one of the training suites when I go with one leg first and try to come with my body over with both arms up is that I cover the ground really fast, and still I will be able to come with my upper body and have both arms able to save when I'm doing that kind of movement. In the cases when I go with my arms first, I normally have a little bit. I'm able to use more power and maybe throw myself a little further. So, but in both clips, you can see that when especially in the second clip, you can see that for me, my right leg is a little bit out, which means I have to go with that leg first. In the other clip, I have, the player's going to my left, but my leg is out to the right, and then I am throwing my body to the left instead of going with the leg first, since I have locked my legs a little bit. So it's much depending on how I'm seated in the goal before, I have to make the movement.
Okay, thank you for sharing. We understand that you are one of the fittest goalies in the world. So what is training like for you? Like, do you focus a lot on fitness as well as your goalkeeper training?
Yeah, we're having really much physical training with our team. It's after most regular practices, it's a little bit depending on the situation, but normally I have mostly gym during the year, some interval trainings also, but it's you can so like in the gym it's mostly quite either high speed or heavy weights, so maybe not too many for lack of the English words, not too many sets, but try to do it with high speed or high weight, and for myself is also more trying to keep like the core strength. You always can be up-seated, move in different situation, not falling to the side or back in the goal, so you can always be up-seated and cover as much as possible. And as you can see in some of the clips, as a goalkeeper, it's being flexible in the goal, and is a really big part. So you actually are able to do like the movements, trying to go for the split moves or something like that. So regular stretching and also some individual yoga is something that I always have been doing for a couple of years now.
Okay, so one of our final questions, what are 3 aspects of goalkeeping which are the most important to you?
Of course, I think having a good basic movement is almost maybe 80-90% of being a goalkeeper, because if you have a good movement, you will always be able to make the next movement be able to have a good chance to make the next save instead of having to throw yourself in the goal. More than that, I think your ability to read the game and know where your opponent is. Sometimes, almost most times, like the player with the ball maybe isn't the biggest threat. It's his team players. If they make a quick pass and a shot, that's most floorball goal is from when it is coming across the pitch, so you know where your opponents are. So trying to read the game, what the strengths your opponents is having is a really big factor also. And maybe as for third, I think as a goalkeeper in general, it's really good to be able to dare to be vocal and telling your defenders both where your opponents are, trying to help them sort out which player that is theirs. And sometimes maybe, for example, when your opponent's coming 2 versus 1, you can decide for your defender if you want them to push hard and make them force an early shot or a pass on the pressure, or tell them to take away the second option, so you're 100% focused on the shot. So I would say it's really important to dare to be vocal and help your defenders, and also decide for defenders what they should do. Because if I think in a situation that here I want a shot by myself, or here I want to pass, if I tell my defender, then I will get my preferred option.
Yep, of course, understand. And I think that is really going to help many goalies in Singapore. So on to questions about Singapore. I understand that you've been to Singapore before.
Yeah.
What is your favorite place in Singapore, or the best thing in your previous trip?
Oh, good question. We traveled quite much when we were in Singapore. So we saw many amazing places, but I think as a tourist, I lost for the name, but gardens where you have the parks.
Yeah, gardens by the beach.
Yeah, precisely. So we were there with our team a couple of times. So that's of course one of the coolest places I have visited. So on top of mind, it's that place.
Thank you. And for our last question, will you be coming down for SG Open, and what do you look forward to next year, like when SG Open occurs?
Hopefully everything is back to normal, I would say. So when the time is right, I'm looking forward to coming back to Singapore. And my biggest experience from when I was there is of course meeting all the floorball players in Singapore, and both on the field and outside, and hopefully we can have at least the same stay and visit as the last time, and hopefully we can work a little bit more and have more things connected to how I think you should train as a goalkeeper and how you should do it, so we can keep on doing these things also in the future.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm sure many of us learned a lot, and I think everyone's looking forward to seeing you when you come down for our next SG Open. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was a goalie special, and I do hope that you guys have learned something from it. But right before we move on to our last player development camp, we'll be playing our iconic Singapore trivia game on Little India. The giveaway will follow this short video.
Little India is a historic area that shows off the best of Singapore's Indian community, from vibrant culture to incredible shopping. The iconic Sri Veeramakaliamman temple was built in 1855, and it tells a fantastic story of colonial Singapore. Many people sought refuge in this temple during the Japanese air raids in World War II. The temple and all of its statues escaped the bombings unscathed. An interesting trait of Little India is that olden day trades, such as flower garland vendors or textile vendors, sit next to newer businesses like modern eateries and boutique hotels. This is something that is not commonly seen around Singapore. Of all the ethnic enclaves in Singapore, Little India is the city at its liveliest and most colourful. It is definitely worth the visit. We hope that you have been enjoying our conference thus far, and see you guys at our next destination. Bye!
So that was the end of our video, and now it's time for the giveaway. So answer the question in the next slide and send your Zoom message to TriviaBot in this format. This is not a speed contest. Feel free to use Google and you have 2 minutes to answer. And at the end of each day, we'll pick one lucky winner from each segment and we will announce the winner on our social media channels. So for the prize of a grip of your choice from the brands that Valhall Asia carries, Zone or Unihawk, the question of today is, the trading of livestock was very common in the past in Little India. What animal was most known for being traded? Please remember to send your answers in one private message, and your 2 minutes begins now. Okay, your time is up. The answer is actually cattle trading. There's a new statue in Little India that pays homage to the history of cattle trading and the use of bullock carts in the past. So this is the last day of our player development camp, and to sum it up nicely, we will be learning to defend and score from the very best. After this segment, Victor Nystedt, defender in IBK Darlan and in the Swedish national team, will be in our Zoom call for Q&A. He is famous for his coast-to-coast runs and is one of the best offensive defenders of his generation. Do get your questions ready so that we can start right after the player development camp. But before we begin, we will show you a short clip from our partner, Singapore Tourism Board, and our sponsor, Zone.
This is the place I call home.
Our home. This is where we live amongst trees and carve them out of metal. Where impossibilities lead us to endless possibilities. This is where all that you're passionate about, all that drives you, is made possible. This is where passion is made possible.
Yeah, in the first thing that we did was like 1 against 1, and the most important thing is to look that you don't have anyone who's deep down, so they can do a quick pass and then go in. So just control with the stick down first, and when you see that you get them at the way you want, then you can be like more aggressive with the body, like just so you have connection. And when you feel that you had the reach, try to go like this for the ball, because it's going to be, if you get a good way around the ball inside, it's going to be, if you're faster than him, then you can just press, then his stick will like just glide up, and then you can take the ball and start a counter attack. So that's the 1-against-1. Yeah, and the other thing we showed was 2-against-1, how you defend against two people where you don't have the support from your own team. In the beginning, you go like pretty hard on the first guy. In Sweden, it's pretty common that you just like put it in the board and down, and then it's really important that you don't go lose it and then just go after the ball, because that's going to be dangerous. If this guy get it good, he's just going to go into the net. So it's really important that you go and then you go in and then go out. So all the time, like when you're here, if you feel that you don't get in like close to it, try to use the balance to get your body already turning this way down to that, because you're gonna probably need to do it 1-2 times before your center comes out and your forward comes down. So really important that you don't give them the inside, like they can play outside here if they want. This guy is the only one with the possibility to shoot, so he's a little bit more dangerous than the guy down below if you cut him good. So that's a tip for 2-against-1.
Thanks.
Det är ganska lockande som coach, ska jag tänka mig, att vi väljer att ta hem grupperna och sätter försvarsspel här, för det har varit lite sådär fram till hittills. De har släppt in bollen. Bra röring av Johan Samuelsson där.
Om Berge. Man är ganska bra snurr och den här nere i offensivzonen.
Okay, so this assist against Pixbo I really like, because it shows that you need to be aware of all time. So as we get the free hit, I run directly to the ball, and I see that the Pixbo players, they're not ready. So I cross the pass to Sunitson, and he can get a goal from it, just because we are checked in at once and they're not ready. Okay, so this assist is the first assist and first goal for us of the season. It's against Helsingborg, and I turn their player around, and I find Daniel Sunitsson on an open space. So as I cross the pass to him, he gets free with the goalkeeper and can place the ball in the net.
När han frispelas på lite på högersidan. Och då placerar han in den till vänstra marken. Nu kommer han synpunkt. Och vi har det första målet. Sonilsson alltså.
Okay, so this assist against Sirius is my favorite assist of the season because it shows how easy we have played in our line. Johan Larsson finds the cross pass from the back position to me, and Alexander Hedlund makes a run from one side to another when I can find him from my place in fickan, as we call it in Sweden, the pocket. Hi, so this 7-6 goal against Pixbo is really important, I think. So I make a max run to right towards the high castle, as we call it in Sweden, and I get a quick pass from Daniel Sunilsson, and I shoot directly and I aim low, because I think if you aim low, it's harder for the goalkeepers to save it. Okay, so this goal against the Torrengruppen I really like because it's against Turin, so it's a rivalry, and I get much time to aim my shot, and I think I really placed the ball well there. So when I get the ball from Sebastian, I start to move my feet and try to make a threat to them, and it just seems like there is no one who wants to block my shot. So they're only trying to block passes from me. So I find the open spot in the net and I place it really hard, and I get the ball where I want it to be. So this 5-4 goal against Falun is my favorite goal this season because it secured us the win and 3 important points against a good team. So in this situation, I get the ball with me 2 times, and I think I'm kind of lucky, or I just work hard for it there. And the ball bounces to Alexander Hedlund, and he finds the pass for me, so I get free with the goalkeeper. And the goalkeeper is, I think he's just sitting very low, so I try to place the ball high, and I placed the ball where I wanted to, and found the open spot. And let's move on to wrist shots. Wrist shots is my favorite shot, and it's because it's so fast, so you get to use it so often, because you don't have time to execute. I don't know what you call it in Sweden. We call it dragskott. I don't know if you call it a drag skott or I really don't know. But a wrist shot, it doesn't take long time to perform. It goes really fast, so it's hard for the defender to block the shot, and it also can surprise the goalkeeper. So when you shoot a wrist shot, you always wanna train enough on shooting with either foot down, because if you limit yourself to shoot with only one foot, you will always have to take another step or shoot at an angle you don't feel comfortable with. So I have trained a lot in my days to shoot with either the left foot down or the right foot, so that I can choose whenever I want to shoot and surprise the goalkeeper, because one time I shoot with my left foot down, and the next time I take another step and I shoot with my right foot. And it's all about the angles, because if you take another step, the goalkeeper will have to move himself to be able to save the shot. And that's the next thing about wrist shot. Before you shoot, if you have the possibility, you will always try to move the ball just a little bit to one side, either drag the ball towards you or away from you. Because when you make that small movement, the goalkeeper will have to move, because you will open another angle at the goal than before. So most goalkeepers, they will try to place themselves right straight ahead when you're coming. Let's say you come running from the middle. So if you run from the middle, the goalkeeper will try to place himself in the middle of the goal with focus on the ball. So if he places himself in the middle of the goal with focus on the ball, and you come running and shoot, just running and shooting, then he will have placed himself in a good spot to be able to save the ball. But if you run and move the ball to a different position, then he will have to move himself as well, or you will have an open angle at the goal that he won't be able to save. And what I like about wrist shots is that I think it's easier to aim. It has high precision if you compare it to the slap shot, and it's a really fast shot. So I think that wrist shots is probably the most important shot to master. So if you can, train on wrist shots as much as you can. And if we move to slap shots, it's a really hard shot. I know some people who shoot super hard, but I don't. I always try to aim, and it's the same with my wrist shots. I always try to aim and place the ball with precision, because it's harder for the goalkeeper to save a well-placed shot than a hard shot. So slap shots it's a bit harder than wrist shots, because you always try to use your flex, and you try to stand with both feet on the ground, so you get to use your whole torso a lot when you shoot slap shots. And you always want to try to, whenever you shoot slap shots, you want to shoot straight away if you get it higher in the field, or you want to shoot from further back in the field, because you don't have the time to handle the ball and place it for a slap shot if you're not shooting straight away. So always try to be ready for a slap shot, place your feet and be ready to move 1 or 2 meters front or back, wherever the pass is coming, and always try to flex your stick so you get the most out of it. So how I try to position myself for a slap shot is that I like to stand with both feet on the ground, and I want to move myself so I get the pass just a little bit in front of the middle of my feet. So if I place myself with both feet on the ground and I look down to the middle, then a little bit more towards my more dominant foot I want to place myself when shooting, because that makes it easier for me to maximize the flex in my stick and also be able to shoot a more precision shot. So I will more likely get the ball where I want it to on target, and that makes it harder for a goalkeeper. That's pretty much what I had to say about that. And if you have any questions, just send them to me and I will answer them as good as I can. And I hope to be able to show you better in Singapore this summer. It's a little hard to talk about it when you can't show, but I hope you learned something. And the most important thing about getting the max out of a shot is to practice.
Hello everybody, I'm going to talk a little bit about coast to coasting. Coast to coasting is something you can do maximum 2 or 3 times in a game. It's to like shock the opponent. If you will do it all the time, they will probably figure out how to stop you, and like it's so high risk and high reward. So if you lose the ball and try to do a coast to coast, it's probably going to be like a 2 against 1 against you if you lose the ball. So I think the easiest way to do a coast to coast is go by the board. Like if you do like this, if I'm a left defender, I just do like this and I go around my forward, and then the center will probably come, then I do like put it into the forehand again, then out again, and when the defender comes, maybe like just fake out, like put the balance on the right leg and then just protect the ball, go inside. That's like probably the easiest way to do a coast to coast. But if you want to do it a little bit harder, then you just see if like their forward standing wide and you see that their center is standing still in the back, then you can just like fake right, put all your speed into it, like try to lean against the forward with the ball back, because he's going to be so tempted to get the ball. And then when you feel him shoulder to shoulder, then you just like put the stick forward, that you know that he doesn't have the reach to get it. And when you have there, you still need to accelerate. You can't like stop. You still need to be like full speed all the time. And if there's center standing still, because I'm a left one, I can probably do like this. I can fake that, and I can go back him around him, and then I probably can put it back on the forehand again and get a shot. But I'm often, I call it climbing, and because I'm so I feel that I'm so good with my forehand and how to put my balance and like so they can't take the ball from me. I'm used to climbing. I go against my forward and then I go like this. I go inside, so I cover the ball, and then when the center comes against me, I just fake and then I go again around him. So now I'm going from the right defending place to my forward, and then the center comes and I go over him again. And if the defender has sinking into the middle, then I will probably go outside and shoot for the far post. So just to get a coast to coast from your goal to another goal, like straight line, then there need to be some miscommunication from the other team. But there's still like a really good spaces to get. You can get like far down to the right or far down to the left probably. But if you do it really good, you can just attack the net by yourself. But when you have done that, it's often like so much focus on you. So the pass will probably be open to some guys, maybe 2 or 3 guys. So you just pick the best pass and hopefully they will score and you get the assist. So coast to coasting isn't always about yourself getting the finish, or it just can be like a thing to in a control game to break the patterns. So that's my tip on coast to coasting. And I don't know, I will recommend you to do it in practice a lot before you try to implement it to your game, because you need to fail a lot before you can succeed and like feel, okay, how I'm gonna put my balance so the defender don't know where I'm gonna go. So try to like balance your body different all the time, because controlling the ball, when you can balance like on this leg or this leg in high speed, then you're going to be unstoppable.
So that was our last segment of player development camp. It's called Learning to Defend and Score from the Best. So right now we have Victor Nistet with us, and he will be taking some Q&A. Victor, please. Hang on. Let me get him. Hi, Victor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, perfect. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us today on our last day.
Yeah.
We're going to end it then. There are some questions that have already come in for you.
Okay. Yeah.
So everyone's quite interested about your play as a defender. So someone asked, I'm a defender myself and I often get sandwiched between 2 opponents. Is there any advice on how to escape from that situation?
That's like sometimes you will get to the ball and there is no time to build the space. But the thing I really like to do is that when I get the ball, I'll try to go, like if I see that I have just 1.5 meters or 1 meter or something, I try to go to one side, and if I like hit that guy on the shoulder, he's like coming take the ball, then I know that I have created a little bit of space here, so then I can turn around to my forehand. So I would say like that, when you get the ball, even if it's bouncing against the board, just try to get to one direction, the one you feel most confident about. So just go maybe to the left until it like stops with the player, and then turn around. And if that guy comes also, it could be that you need to just stand it away using the boards, or that they are like so wide that you have a little bit of space of turning around. Like if you turn around with your space, then you have a little bit of space, so then you can just put the balls like under you and turn in. So if you can if you can manage that, you will be like successful in that game if they have like that playing style. But it's going to be hard. Like use your teammates as much as possible. Like when you need to do it by yourself, it's like the last exit. But I will say like that.
Okay, thank you. So for our next question, someone said, you are not the biggest size Swedish player. How do you work against bigger size players? And it's very similar for us Asians when we play European teams.
Yeah. Like I know I'm not the biggest guy and like not height, not weight, but the thing you can think of is that just try to look at your opponent. Like if he's big, if I meet a big player, then I'm trying to go like this. I go one touch against him, then I back it off because I know that if he turns to the right, then I can put my stick underneath his stick and try to take it. Or I can, like, if he goes left, the same thing. So I'm just, because if he looks down at the ball like this, like with the stick, then it's going to be like he needs to control the ball. So if he turns left and turns right, then he thinks that I'm like this behind him, but I'm not. So if I do like this, then I can go easy on both sides. So that's my tip on that. So just one like tackle in the back for them, just a little bit one, not so you get like a free shot or something, but just a little one, back it off and try to think what they're gonna do. Like if they're a left guy, they probably want to go to the forehand, and the right guy the same. So just try to figure out what they want to do as their next step, but try to make them look down on the ball so you can do what you want.
Okay, thank you. For our next question, what do players you are defending one-on-one do that makes it hard for you to defend?
Can you take that one again?
Okay, so what do players that you are defending one-on-one,
Yeah.
what do they do that makes it hard for you to defend?
If they have a combination with speed and they're pretty big and they're like strong, then you need to like really think about who you're playing against. I played against the best in the world. I played against them with the national team, and I played against them like with Ibrodalen. So right now I can say like all the best player in the world, they're in the Swedish Super League. I will say that I have a pretty good control on how to defend against every one of them. So it's gonna take time. It's not like a 1-2 game thing you can like learn. You need to watch them play and everything. So I will say if you have the opportunity, study your opponents more than you're doing. But the most important thing is that you play your game. So not try to change too much. You need to find a way to you like so you can be successful in the game, not trying to just defend. So if you're up against a good guy, offensive guy, then it's probably, if you're a defender, then you can control the ball a little bit more, because if you have the ball, they don't have the ball. So I have a little bit of philosophy that I get from my dad. He said to me when I was really young, he said, whenever you have the ball, the other team can't score. So I don't know. I'm trying to work on that to let the ball go a little bit faster, but it's not as hard because I'm trusting myself so much with the ball, and yeah. So I will say like that. If you're up against like a big strong guy who can shoot and everything, just try to be on the forehand and yeah, just relax. Just give him like 1.5 meters and just put the stick forward because when he's gonna shoot, he's gonna need to put that stick forward, and then it's just gonna go against your blade, and then it's probably gonna go everywhere else, but not the net.
Yes. For our next question, someone asked, just now David Jensen spoke about the risk or reward trade-off. I noticed that you run risky runs through the center. How do you decide when it is safe to do that?
I fail a couple times a year also, so I can't say like I'm the master of the like when I'm gonna do it and when I'm not gonna do it. But I will say like if I'm liking to attack the middle, so if I see that they're forward standing wide, then I'm just trying to do it, because if if the center is there, I know it's going to be a 1-against-1 and I have the control of the ball. So the worst thing I'm going to do is that I need to cancel the coast to coast, if we call it that. So like if they're standing wide and I get up my speed, I'm not like so worried. The worst thing I can do is that I can pass like an easy pass back to my other defender, or I can pass it just to the sides, left or right. So there's not a good time. I think that's the thing you need to practice on. Like if you see that your guys are standing wide at a practice, and just go for it. Like try and see how much space you can make yourself, and after you've done that, okay, what can I change? Can I make something more that I get more space? Because if they're tight on you, it's going to be a 50-50. But if you can create the space, then it's going to be like 80% successful rate.
Thank you for sharing. So for our next question, when you are playing against a high press, the coast-to-coast style works well. How do you adapt your play when the opponent is playing a low press?
Low pressing is like, I don't know, I'm like too challenging, guys. I don't know if you saw the clips earlier. I like to like take a guy on me, and then like when I see that he has me, like he really wants to take the ball from me, then I can start backing and stuff and trying to put my balance on different leg just to see if he wants to go a different way or he wants to like really attack the ball. So if they're standing low, I'm trying to get in their comfort zone. I'm trying to get so close that they feel like, okay, I can't be standing still here and just move the stick. I need to go against him. And when I can lure him up, then I create space behind him. So then I'm trying to use that. So my game is like to help my team. So when I'm playing, I'm trying to take on as much guys as possible so they have me in focus. So if I like pass to my left left defender, then he's just going to, he can like attack the middle or get a good pass. So I'm just trying to get as much guys on me as possible at all times.
Thanks for sharing. For the next question, we have, how else do you play apart from shifting your weight left and right to fake a move?
Tough question, but I'm just trying to protect the ball, get my eyes up as much as possible. You have games where you feel like, okay, I know exactly where I have the ball. Like in the warm up before the game, you feel like, okay, I can dribble, I can look up, I can do this, I can flip it, I can take it down, and everything. So you're gonna have games where it don't feel as good as like it can be. So I'm trying to adapt also to the daily form. If I'm feeling really good, then I'm probably gonna attack the guys even more. But I will say that just protect the ball, and if they're standing still, get the speed to the ball. Try to use the team as much as possible, because then you can't create the space on your own. Then you need to like pass to someone, then move to another space, and then you maybe get the ball. Then you have the opportunity to score or make the finishing pass. So I will say the games where my style of play doesn't work, then I use my teammates a lot more.
Our next question we have, do you have any tips on scanning the court while being pressured by the opponent?
Like scanning the...
Yeah, like scan for your teammates or scan for the goal.
Yeah. Like try to do it like if you look at, now I'm going to do comparisons to a football player, but Iniesta, who plays in FC Barcelona, who played in FC Barcelona, like the thing he was so special about was that he was always moving his head. He's always looking. So like try to scan it even before you get the ball. But when you get the ball, then I often do, like if I have a guy on me, then I'm trying to create a little bit space so I know that I'm safe. He doesn't have like the stick reach to get the ball. And under that time, I'm trying to see if everybody in my team is standing still, if somebody moves in a space where I can pass to something. But I'm not very stressed to get the ball away. I know that like a 1-against-1 for me is, yeah, I'm just trying to take it as chill as possible. So 1-against-1 for me is like I can scan as much time as I need, and if I'm feeling a little bit more pressure than I want to, then I just use the net, because if you can use your own goal, then I will say, I say to all my defenders that I try to learn, like, if you can use your own goal, you're always 2 against 1. Like, he always needs to run around either way, but we have also a rule in Sweden that you can't stay behind the net for like how long you want. Then they will get a free shot. So I will just say, like, try to see which post he wants to go on, and if you're standing in front of net, then you're gonna need the teammates to help you also. Yeah.
That's very insightful. For our next question, we have, what are the important factors to look at when defending a free hit that is close to your goalpost?
Try to work as deep as possible. Like, the thing I practice on, just to be a little bit better, was that I noticed when I come to the Swedish Highest League, I noticed that I was like, when I'm sitting down to block a shot, I was not as fast up as I want to. So I'm trying to find the balance to like bounce against the floor. So now when I'm defending the corner or something, I can just bounce in the ground and up again, so I can like be on him all the time. But like, it's same when it's a free shot. Like, you need to be able to work like really far down to cover as much of the goal as possible, but still be able to move very fast if it's not like you guys have, everybody has one, but it's some miscommunication. So one goes away to the wrong like angle or something, then you need to cover up that. So I will just say, like, sit down, but like have the muscles ready to react if there's something that doesn't go according to plan.
Okay, for our next question, as a defender, do you look at the forward's eyes or feet to know what he plans to do next?
Like the opponent's forward or my forwards?
The opponent.
The opponent. Like, I'm like, because you can see that I'm faking a lot. I'm like trying to, and then I just stop, and the same the other direction, everything. So I will say, just try to, if you have the time, you don't need to do it like 10 times, but at least 2 times to see what they do. If you fake to like go to the middle, what do they do? Like, do they completely misbalance? Do they like lean back first, or do they go straight for a ball? Like, everything is important for you to like gather in, but like, the more comfortable you are with the ball, the closer to the forward you can be and still be comfortable. So I will say, just find the space between you and the forward you feel comfortable with, and know that he doesn't have the stick reach, and then just like study him. Like, I don't know how to answer that question like correctly, but just try to study him. Like, is he a quick starter, or does he doesn't like to put in the work or something? Just look at him. Like, try to fake him out, and if you faked him out 1-2 times, he's gonna be so confused on what you're gonna do every time. So then it's not even gonna be a part of the game.
Okay, so next we have some questions about your speed. Are you the fastest player in the Dolan team? And how do you train your speed, or is it something you were born with?
I'm being pretty fast since I was little. I played senior floorball since I was 12. So when I was 12, I was pretty small. Like, I'm 160, 174 now. And like, if you think how small I am now, then I was like really, really small, and I was like meeting people that was like as big as my dad. So I was pretty scared when I was playing in the senior team so little. So I was trying to, okay, I can't get the tackles. I don't want to be a part of the tackles. So I needed to be quick. So of course I trained that. I trained a lot of like quick runs, like, and I would say the most important things, like, I'm the 7th quickest guy on the team, but like, with everybody watching the game, everybody says that I'm the fastest, but that's not true, but I think with the ball, I'm the fastest, and I'm the fastest guy to change sides with, like, if I'm in high speed, I'm the only one who can like try to go left and then just change to go to the right. So I will say that just try to be quick, but try to be quick to like be able to change how you run, not like in a straight line. Straight line it's not floorball. Straight line is probably football if you're like a right winger or something, but like floorball, you need to be able to change the way you run.
Okay, so now on to our last two questions.
Yeah.
Lisa Ng said in the chat, "Hi Victor, I love watching you play, especially your runs, but do you ever get scolded by your coach?"
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, when you come to an Super League team, the problem is that they're gonna expect you to be good at everything. So like they like my coast to coast thing, but they hate my coast to coasting also because they feel like, okay, Victor, there's 4 other guys you can play to. It's gonna be easier, but it's like floorball is a sport for the public, so I'm trying to show off sometimes and just make sure that the people in the stands enjoy the game. So sometimes I'm doing it just for fun, and sometimes do it for like scoring. So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I have been benched because I doesn't listen to my coaches. Now I played there for 7 years, and I have really good connection with both the coach and Urban. So right now they just know that I'm always trying to do what's best for the team and the club. So now they're pretty much letting me do my thing. But some games they can be like, okay, let the ball like a little bit faster. But like now I can pretty much do what I want. Don't tell Roland or that I said that, but now I can probably do what I want.
Okay, for our last question, someone said, "I saw in an interview that you love F1. I love F1 too. What do you like about it, and what is your favorite team?"
We can talk about like Formula One. I've saw it. I seen it as a kid, but I wasn't like really into it back then. But I started watching it 2017, and now I've only been to one race live, and that was Barcelona. I went there. I will have been there now in May also, but the Corona stopped it. So, but I'm cheering for Renault Formula One team right now, and I really love Danny Ricciardo. But he's going to move to McLaren now. That is their like biggest rival. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do right now, but I'm not like, I'm a loyal guy. I don't like to jump to another team to share on. So, but like I'm in love with like everything. I have like a simulator at home, so whenever I get the time, I'm playing that. So it's really good after a game. If you feel like I had a bad game, then you can just watch the game one time and then you can play some F1. So it's a good like thing for me to calm down my nerves, like have really high volume that I can't like think of anything else except the game. So I'm using it a little bit as a meditation, if I say like that.
Thank you so much for your input, Victor. We have come to the end of our Q&A, and
Yeah.
all the best for your Storveta game tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
See you around. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so right now we'll be going on to our last segment, our iconic Singapore. This is the last giveaway that we will have for this camp. Yeah. So we'll be doing it on Jewel Changi Airport today. The giveaway will follow this video as usual.
Hi everyone!
I'm Jokesta.
I'm Shen. I'm Rachel, and we are from IBK Dalam Moose Albatross. Today we're here at Jewel Changi Airport, which is a nature-themed entertainment and retail complex inside Changi Airport itself. In fact, it is linked to 3 of our passenger terminals.
Situated behind us is the HSBC Rain Vortex. This is the largest and tallest indoor waterfall in the world. It measures up to 40 meters tall.
Come nightfall, the sheet of water acts as a screen on which a light and sound show is projected. If you have the chance, be sure to visit Jewel Changi Airport. Thanks for joining us on this conference. Bye!
So we hope that you have enjoyed our video, and these are the giveaway details. I don't want to repeat them again, but answer the trivia question in the next slide and send one Zoom message to Trivia Bot in this format. And at the end of the day, we will pick one lucky winner from each segment and announce them on our Instagram and Telegram channel. So for our last prize, we'll be giving away a Unihawk Matte Black water bottle. And the question is, Jewel Changi Airport's facade comprises of many pieces of specially manufactured glass. How many pieces of glass were used in the entire project? Please send your answers in this format. The 2 minutes begins now. Okay, your time is up. Thank you guys for participating in our last giveaway. So the answer is actually 9,000 pieces of glass. And a fun fact is that each piece of glass weighs between 250 and 300 kg. So do you remember Moshe Safdie? He's also the man behind this ingenious design. So he's the architect of this, Jewel Changi Airport, as well as MBS and Art Science Museum. With that, we have come to the end of our 2020 virtual SG Floorball Open Conference. However, do remember that we'll be having a special segment called Dalan Behind the Scenes from 2 to 4th of January 2021. You can get to meet players virtually and get to know more about them, as well as the inner workings of one of the top clubs in the SSL. So once again, thank you so much for joining us and being on this journey with us. We hope to see you soon. Bye!